I think grit on some level is tied to caring. In my mind, grit is that thing that you possess that carries you when things get really tough. And I think if you didn't care when things got tough, you would quit.
Welcome to Grit Meets Growth, the podcast where we explore getting uncomfortable, making things happen, and creating a magnetic life. Now let's get after it.
So we're on to episode 10.
How's that even possible? I know I think I say that every episode. How is it possible that we're on 10 already? And certainly appreciate everybody that's listening. Hopefully there are values that, valuable information that people are getting out of listening to this. As we've talked about before, it's almost a therapy session for me. And I know, John, you've said the same thing, right? And, I've gotten a few notes as of late people talking about, valuable things they're getting out of it, whether it's, refocusing on the goals and priorities in their life and, just triggered them to really look at things differently. So that's all I can hope for. That's ultimately, my reason for doing this.
I love when you say it's a mini therapy session, because that's exactly what it feels like. There's been so many topics that even as we're talking about it and getting it prepared to share out with people, I need to remind myself of these things every single day. I need to hear these things just as much as I need to say them. And so it's been really powerful to have these conversations. I know, like you said, we've heard from a lot of people who are getting a lot out of them. But it's been powerful to have these conversations and refreshing for me to put this stuff out there and say it out loud. So it's been good, man.
Yeah. When you say it out loud, you kind of have to, abide by it. I kind of look at it and go, well, geez, I said that, I better do that.
That's how I've been in the gym. I've been going back. So we're on 4.5 months of podcasts now or thereabouts. My experience in the gym is completely different in the last 4.5 months because we started having conversations about it. And I refuse to be the guy who has a conversation about something and then doesn't go do it after we've talked about it and put it out there. And so
what's different for you?
First of all, I've realized how important it is. I don't want to get to 50 and feel worse than I did when I was 45. So I'm going to turn 46 here in a little bit. I want to get to 50 and feel better, not worse. So that's been a big part of it. The second piece is there's some built-in accountability here where having these conversations, it has me thinking about it. It makes it top of mind for me. But then there's some accountability where if somebody sees me or hears one of these conversations, I don't want them to go, I know he said he's doing this, but I can't tell. Is he really? I don't want people to have to question that. Like if I say something, I want to be the guy who does it. We talk about discipline on here. I can't have a conversation here about discipline and then not live it out. And so, the flip side of that is we're having conversations about what it's like to be a better husband. Mm-hmm. That's the same thing. I want my wife to be able to look at this and go, you know what? He's not perfect, far from it, but I can tell he's trying. So.
Yep. Absolutely. Do what you say and say what you do.
Yep. That's easier said than done sometimes. It's easy to say. There's so many things that are easy to say. Putting the action behind it is hard.
Right. And that's the thing, right? We could talk about this stuff all day long, but if we don't put it into practice, it's meaningless, right? It's just words put out into the ether. And part of that therapy that I talk about is me actually saying it. And I'm that same way. Like if I tell you I'm going to make my bed every day, then I make my bed every day. Like that's just how we need to operate, right? We need to follow through and do what we say we're going to do.
It's a conversation. Like I've got 2 teenagers, 15-year-old twins. It's a conversation I have with them all the time. Like say, do what you said you were going to do, follow through. That's not a teenage thing though. That's an everybody thing. That follow through is important. We talk about, I want to reach a goal. You don't reach a goal unless there's follow through.
Well, and you have to lead by example. right? Whether that's with your kids, with your friends in your relationship, with your business, lead by example. And I don't ever want anybody to do anything that I wouldn't do. And if I'm going to go put in the work, then I expect that you would do that as well, right? And you set that expectation. And our kids specifically, right? They're watching from the time they're little of how we treat people, how we act, what we're doing, the work that we're putting in, the work that we're putting in the gym, the work that we're putting in at work. They see that stuff without even having to say those words to them. They see what we're doing.
Along those lines, that doesn't stop with our kids either. Think about your clients, coworkers. People are watching all the time. They want to know how you're going to show up. What kind of character are you bringing to the table? Does that character go beyond the words you say and hit your actions? And if it doesn't, that sends just as strong a message as if it does. We spend a lot of time building reputations, and we put a reputation on a pedestal. Like, we want to build these great reputations for ourselves. They're hard to build and really easy to tear down. And so we have to be really careful with that and make sure that our actions are aligned with who we say we are.
And play big. Play big with those actions. Go big. We talk about getting uncomfortable. How do you get uncomfortable? You play bigger than you are. I mean, John, you're not a super big guy, not to pick on you, but you played basketball growing up as a kid. I mean, you're not the biggest guy on the court. You probably never were. And that's not to dig on you, but you had to play big.
You play big, you compete big, and you figure out ways to leverage your strengths. So I was not big, but I was fast. And that's something I never really captured that the way I wanted to in basketball. But on a soccer field, it was a whole different story, because I was fast and I was aggressive, and I was kind of like a mosquito. I'd just keep bugging you and I'd stay in your face, and I was consistently chasing. And so you figure out what are your strengths when you enter any playing field, whether it's a soccer field or a relationship or work. What are my strengths? What do I bring to the table, and how do I leverage my strengths? People talk. I made the mistake a long time ago. I had a guy that worked for me that was really good at three things. And I got to a point where I wanted to try him doing something that was completely out of his zone. And I'm like, oh, if he can do these three things, he must be able to do the fourth thing. And what I found was he wasn't able to do the fourth thing. He wasn't good at it. I could have spent time trying to teach him how to be good at it. So I hit this crossroads, right? I can either work really hard to leverage his strengths, or I can spend a lot of energy trying to help him add a strength that he might never get to. And the spot that I hit was take advantage of his strengths. He's on the team, and we talked a little bit about team coming into this conversation and the importance of it. This guy on my team was really strong at three things, three disciplines he crushed. He had them nailed. He was the best in the business at those three things. I needed to keep him focused on those three things and quit trying to turn him into something that he wasn't. And we spend time like, I want to develop my weaknesses. Maybe you just need to play to your strengths.
Gino Wickman in Traction, right, in the entrepreneurial operating system, talks about that through strengths finders, right? Through finding, get it, want it, capacity to do it, right? And evaluating that across those areas, right? Do they get it? Do they want it? And do they have the capacity to perform? I mean, that's basically what you went through that analysis, right? They've got these three great capabilities. Do they match up with what I need them within those three capabilities? Or am I expecting something different out of them? I realized, through my career that if somebody doesn't want it, they're never going to achieve it. So if that task that I need them to complete is something that they don't want to do, they're never going to do it. And then what happens? We get frustrated and you go round and round, right? And ultimately it causes a bunch of animosity in the environment. What if we could just cut through that from the get-go? And that's not to say that I only do the things that I want to do, right? Because there are those capacity items and there is that ability to stretch that's going to happen. There are areas that I need to stretch in. But if I'm going to achieve the impossible, right? If I'm going to make the impossible possible, I have to focus on my strengths and I have to focus on the strengths of others. And I have to find where those strengths align. That's my job as a leader, is to find where everybody's strengths align and put the puzzle together. That's where that impossible is going to be achieved.
The beauty of calling it a puzzle too, like if you think about a puzzle, you take all the pieces, you put them on the table, and then you start to piece them together. Every piece has a unique spot where it fits. And no two pieces probably fit in the same spot. They either are different shapes or they have a different picture or image on them. And a lot of times that's what we run into, is we need to figure out how the pieces fit together and how they complement each other. And the way my piece fits is not the same as the way your piece fits. That's the whole point of it. When they come together, they create something that's nice to look at and creates a picture.
Yep. Absolutely. Draw the strengths on the board and put it together. I'm a big visual guy, right? So I'm always a whiteboard drawer. I'm so happy to be back in an office where I can really take advantage of the whiteboard.
You think about the strengths too and where they lie. Like there's no team. Think about a football team. So we're in the football season right now. No team is built up of all offense or all defense. No team is built up of all quarterbacks or all receivers. You need people that fit into every one of those spots. And it's a really good model to look at to go, okay, what do we need to be successful? We have all of these tasks we need to do, all of these things that we need to be successful. Now, where do we take each other's strengths and put those into the right places? None of us can do this alone. There's not anybody who brings every strength to the table. And I think there are times where we want to try and do it by ourselves, or we think, oh, this would be easier by myself, or I could do this all by myself. You couldn't. There's no way. And so having teams, like I have a great team at Orange Ball that complements the things that I do. Like there are things that I'm good at that they're not, and there are things they're good at that I'm not. There are things I love to do that they don't like to do, and there are things they like to do that I would hate to do. And that's a beautiful combination if you can get that put together.
So as we're going through that whole team idea, let me toss something by you. Love to get your thoughts on this. How far down the path can we get by not necessarily being the best, but caring the most? Does caring in that situation, take any situation, does really caring about a situation get you to success as fast, if not faster, than being the best?
Here's my take on that. I think we toss the term grit around quite a bit, right? I think grit on some level is tied to caring, because in my mind, grit is that thing that you possess that carries you when things get really tough. And I think if you didn't care when things got tough, you would quit. So I think grit and caring on some level are connected. And I think caring, everything that we want to do, we want to build, we want to create is going to come with a challenge at some point. Right. And if you don't care, when you hit the challenge, that's when you stop. I don't care enough to keep going. Caring is what keeps you moving. And when the momentum starts to slow down, or you get tired, or things get tough, caring is what carries you and provides the grit that you need. That would be my take on it. How about you?
Yeah, well, I just kind of thinking about how we started the conversation today, right? Doing the things that we say we're going to do. Why do I do those? Why do I have to do that? If I say I'm going to do it, why do I do it? Because I care. Because I care about the results and I care about myself in that situation. But I also care about the others that it's going to impact. I care about the people in my life, my kids. I want them to see how I handle certain situations, right? I want to talk about that. I want to show them. I want to talk about those things. I care about my relationship with my wife, so we work on that stuff, right? I might not always be the best, but we're always working on being better. So that's kind of, I'm with you on that, right? I think we don't have to be at our best. We just have to care the most.
I would say, I wonder if you took elite athletes and you broke that down. What is the breakdown between the ones that are physically in the best shape and the ones that care the most and work the hardest? Because what I think, my gut says the athletes that care the most and work the hardest can overcome the fact that they are not the best physical specimen from the beginning. And that's not to say that physical skills and attributes don't matter, because I think they do. But I think they'll only carry you so far. I think you need the care. You need this really matters element to be really strong for you to show up and do the work when you don't want to do it. Like we've talked about that on almost every episode. Showing up when you don't feel like it, showing up when you don't want to. Care is what drives that.
Care is a piece of the mindset, I think, right? It's a component of that overall mindset. And physically, we don't ever have to be the biggest, the strongest. If I'm competing against somebody that's bigger, stronger, faster, but I have a stronger mindset, and I care about that situation, I can overcome. Think about that in business, right? You go up against big firms all the time. We go up against big firms all the time. Where, gets down to that conversation. What makes you better? Why are you better? Well, I'm more agile, able to make changes faster within how we're delivering service. I may be more approachable, right? Think about those differentiators in your business or whatever job that you're doing. What differentiates you in the job that you're doing today, whether that's in sales or in operations, right? Or even if you're on a line, in production, what makes you better than the next person across from you?
I think care. I think care is a big piece of that. It may not be the only piece, but I think it's a big piece. And I think care kind of aligns with understanding too what your core values are. Like, what are those things that you value in life, in yourself, in people around you, in business? Understanding what you value. Now I know what I care about because I'm saying I value it. And it take those core values. They're probably aligned. They should be aligned with your purpose. All those pieces play together. A lot of it is just understanding who you are and what makes you tick, what matters to you, why you get out of bed in the morning. I mean, those are important questions to know the answers to.
Right. Well, and I don't think you have to have it all figured out. No. Sometimes it's just about putting one foot in front of the other, right? We've talked about that many times, and talk about the staircase, right? I mean, just having to see the first step. As long as I can see the first step, I can find the second step and the third step. So it's not, I don't believe, and I don't operate in my own life in such a fashion that I have it all figured out. But I know at my core, just as you were saying, John, I know at my core what I am and who I am. And I make sure that what I'm doing aligns with those items at the core. I might not have it all figured out. I might not know what the next step is. And listen, we all make mistakes. And I was doing some reflection earlier today on some things in my past and going, well, the guy I am today, would I have done that differently? The answer is probably. But you know what? I did the best that I could with the knowledge that I had at the time. And so I'm not looking back on it with regret, but I'm looking back on it to say, look at how I've grown over whatever period of time. And I would handle that way differently today. I'm a way different person today than I was 10 years ago. And that's not a bad thing, right? I think that's a good thing. And it's good to feel that way in those situations. Because we are putting in the work, right? I'm putting in the work on a daily basis. And most of it is up here between my ears. That's where the majority of the work goes.
100%. Two things to that point where you can look back, because I've had a very similar experience. I had some struggles when I was in high school, rough relationship with my parents. To be able to look back and see how much I've grown since then, and to be able to have conversations with my mom now. My dad's gone, but to be able to have conversations with my mom and say, hey, sorry, I would have done that different. I can't go backward. There's nothing I can do about it, but I just want you to know I'm sorry. And I hope you're proud of who I am today. I think that's big. The other thing that I want to hit on is you made the comment about not having it all together. And I've had a lot of conversations with my kids. So they're 15, sophomores in high school. And the fallacy is that all these other kids in high school have it all together. The popular jock kid has it all together. The popular smart girl has it all together. Everyone else has it all together. And we're the only one that doesn't, right? And I wish that somebody had told me, because I figured this out later, like that popular jock kid does not have it all together. He may look like it when he walks through the doors of the high school, but I don't know what he's got going on at home. I don't know if his parents fight every night. I don't know if his dad's an alcoholic. Like, make your list, right? None of us have it all together. And that I've told that to my kids 100 times as they've gone through middle school, high school. But what I realized too is, like, as I walk into a networking event and they're starting to come back again, and I'm having conversations with people again that I don't necessarily know. And so I'd walk into these conversations and I'd be like, oh, that guy's got it all together, or she's got it all together. And I start to feel like I'm the only one that doesn't, like I'm a little bit less than. And what I keep reminding myself is none of them have it all together. No matter what we look like when we walk into a room, into a meeting, into any conversation, we're all bringing something to those conversations. We all have something. There's something going on in our lives that we do not have it all together. Nobody does. And so that's like made me feel weirdly more confident walking into those situations. Like, we're all normal. And even the person who looks like they've got it the most together is still normal. And I'm just going to come in and add value.
So how do you go into those situations adding value?
A lot of it is ask questions. A lot of it is just being curious and asking questions. I brought this up earlier. We can either come into a meeting or a conversation like that with somebody we don't know, and we can work really hard to be fascinating and put all of the attention on us, or we can work really hard to be fascinated, where we're asking questions. We're super curious about the person across from us. We're really trying to get to know them and make the conversation about them and not about me. And I heard on a podcast today, I is one of the most popular words in the English language. And if we could replace I in our conversations with you, it would be a game changer. So how about you? How do you deal with situations like that?
It's really, getting to know people. I've always tried to be observant, notice where we may have commonalities in our lives, in our likes, and start asking questions around that and really building that rapport, right? If you can focus on something that, if you have something in common with somebody else, it's easy to build that relationship. I look back to when we first met a year ago. I knew within the first half hour of conversation, we had some commonality. There were some things that existed on the way you approached business, the way you talked about how you could help me in my business, that very consultative approach that you took, which is the same way that I approach the way I operate, right? Commonality. So let's exploit that. Let's really, let's get into that. And what did we find out? We had way more in common than we ever thought we did when we first met. One thing led to another, and here we are on this podcast.
The interesting thing about that is too, if you break it down, you could look at what I do on the marketing side of the world and what you do on the IT security side of the world. And we have products and services that we offer, that we bring to clients. Our approach, kind of like what we just got done talking about, our approach is we care. Mm-hmm. It's not sales. We didn't have sales conversations when you and I first started talking. We had conversations about how we could help each other and what that looked like. And I felt like they were naturally geared into like more of a caring stance. There was no transaction that was going to happen. It was going to be a relationship. We were going to figure out how to work with each other, how to help each other. That completely changed the game.
Yep, for sure.
You brought up earlier the difference between waiting for opportunities and making opportunities. This was before we started recording. Talk a little bit about that, because I think it's an interesting conversation.
Yeah, and when I say opportunity, I think that can really relate to any piece or component of our life, right? In our day-to-day activities. But it comes down to, are you going to sit back and wait for those opportunities to present themselves and always hoping and praying that something's going to happen? Or are you going to go out there and get it? My dad, who is, he's an outdoorsman, loves to hunt. And I think he would tell you that hunting turkeys is one of his favorite things to do. And I think about the way that he hunts turkeys, and I listen to his stories every year, and he gets a turkey every year. But it's not because he sits under a tree and waits for that turkey to show up. He listens to where they are, and he kind of goes and stalks them and gets himself in a position to where he can bring that prize home. And I think about that scenario and I go, man, are we doing that in our everyday lives? Am I doing that in my life? Am I going out and seizing the opportunity and going and taking them? Or am I just waiting for things to happen? I'd argue that most of the time, I'm going after what I want. Paint the picture in my mind, write down those goals, and go and achieve it. I see a lot of my, what have become my friends now at the gym. I see it in my business partner who's putting in the work from a fitness perspective. There's no better time in history than right now to get ourselves in shape. There's so many benefits of it, right? But I have to seize that opportunity. I have to go get it. The gym isn't going to come to my bedroom in the morning. I have to go there if I'm going to work out, right? I have to be there. I have to show up. And we talk about always, right? Lessons from the gym transcend into everyday life. And I keep coming back to it, but it's the foundation of everything that we're doing with our lives. Replace gym with what you're doing at work. Are there opportunities in your job that you just wait for somebody to deliver to your desk, or do you get up and go, hey, here's how I can help? You know, you mentioned something about this yesterday. Here's what I can do to address that. Let's not wait for those opportunities to fall into our lap, because I guarantee you, it's not going to happen all that often, if ever.
You
Put yourself in a place that you can go out there, hard charge it, go after those opportunities, go take them, man.
You talk about your dad hunting. He gets that turkey not because he's lucky. There's a sign behind me as we're recording this that says "Make your own luck." And anybody who knows me, I'm not a firm believer in luck. I don't know that it exists, but I think there are things we can do to make ourselves lucky. There are actions we can do to create opportunities and prepare for those opportunities when they come our direction. That's huge. You have to take some action. You have to, like you said, you have to hunt the turkey. It's not going to come to you. It's not going to wander across your path and be ready to go home with you. You got to hunt the turkey. You got to do the work, make your luck. And that takes focus, takes intention, takes energy, all those things we have to pour into it to make it happen.
Yeah. And I think we could really circle that right back to what we talked about earlier, right? And together is better, right? Success with a group. We are the sum of our 5 closest friends. Find that circle. Find that circle of, I'm going to say it, find that circle of killers. Find that circle of people that have that killer instinct, that are going to go out there and grab those opportunities and go and take them just like you are. Those are the people that you want to surround yourself with. People that have that same type of attitude. They may bring, and they should bring, other skills to round it all out. But they got to have that right mentality first.
100%.
Hey, we hope you enjoyed today's episode of Grit Meets Growth. We have 2 asks for you as we wrap things up today. First of all, if you enjoyed this podcast or you got something out of it today, we'd love to have you subscribe and follow us so that you can get your ear in on more of these conversations. And the second thing we'd love to have you do is if you heard something today that you think could help somebody else or that they need to hear, we just ask you to share the podcast and let this message be magnetic to as many people as possible. So with that, have an awesome day. Make it happen. Get out there, do the work, and let's get after it.